everyone, and welcome to the Babbling Irons. As you can see, we're going up in the world. We've now got little intro videos, so we're trying to be a little bit more professional as we go along. As you can see here, with the fresh-faced Evans joining us as well today. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good, especially after a point yesterday. I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely after a point. Frankie, how about you, mate? How are you feeling about after the game?
Yeah, all good. You know, we've got 2 points from our last two games that most people said we'd probably get zero from. So, yeah, we're in a better position slightly, although results around us kind of went against us again. But, you know, it's 2 more points towards safety, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Ev, I know you was at the game, so what was your feelings on the atmosphere?
Atmosphere was very subdued. It was such a strange one because even beforehand, turning up to the stadium and stuff, everyone just seemed knackered. You know, like hungover from the day before. That's what it felt like. But
yeah,
the most exciting part of the first half, apart from the goal, was the pigeons. Everyone was going on about that for the last 24 hours or so.
Same thing's happening to us. We was talking about them being end to end.
Oh,
across really well.
Only the end weren't attacking. I don't know if you noticed that. I'd like to see their heat map.
No, exactly. We were saying they had a great defensive zone a couple of times. It was that bad a game. I think at times we were doing the same, talking about the pigeons.
Yeah, unreal. But yeah, atmosphere not the best, unfortunately, lads.
No, exactly. Yeah, I completely agree. Being there, it was flat, really, really flat. But you know, before we kind of get into how bad the atmosphere was a bit more, let's kind of go through, you know, what were the lineups during the game, you know, how we initially set out our stall. And yeah, then we'll get into what was at times a painful first half. But yeah, so this were the lineups for the game. We obviously went for three at the back again. We went for the double pivot of Paqueta and Rice, and the typical kind of front three, really. Chelsea, a bit of a surprise seeing them playing in a back four recently, but again, they went for the back four. Fernandez obviously was really good in centre midfield, along with Felix coming back from his suspension. And it was a fast-paced front line from Chelsea and a very dynamic four. So, yeah, West Ham at the moment, it's one of the things that we constantly keep saying is it's another slow start. We didn't start the game very well. They could have been out of sight within the first 20 minutes, guys. How did you think that first 20 minutes went?
I mean, it's just typical, isn't it? We've come so accustomed, like we've said it so many times. It seems like we say it every week that we just don't start, and it takes us to go 1-0 down to actually start playing. And yeah, we got let off with that Felix disallowed goal. It should have been a wake up. Yes, we had the Paqueta injury, which probably disrupted things as well. But at that point, you need to be more aware of like the importance of that game. And I think what you mentioned there, Evan, with the atmosphere, like the reason why the atmosphere is probably so bad at the start of matches is just because of how we're starting and how we're set up. Because, you know, when we go to look at the first goal, we're so defensive. We're trying to be so compact, but we go almost too far that way. So we don't really offer anything in that kind of mid block or towards, you know, their final third. And we kind of just get pinned back. And teams like Chelsea, they will be able to do that. They will push their fullbacks really high and they'll be able to pin us in. And that's exactly what happened for that first goal. So yeah, another slow start. And it's just becoming really frustrating, to be honest.
I completely agree, Frankie. It's the problem is, when we used to play in this formation, particularly when Moisey first come back, it was because we were trying to get points. Mm. But even when we played with the five at the back, we'd do so we could counter. And I think that's what we're not even doing that now. Like, especially yesterday, it was kind of boring for the first 20 minutes. And it was almost like we were almost ready to lay down and say, oh, we're not going to get anything from the game. I mean, obviously, Moisey's come out and said Rice is not being well. He played with a virus. So you can understand why he wasn't 100%, still good, but not 100%. But yeah, it's a shame because we only play five at the back because we don't want to lose. That's not a team you play when you want to win, is it? And I don't think anyone trusts Kehrer at centre half. You know, I don't think he trusts himself. I still can't work out if he's left or right footed, and he's rubbish for both. Do you know? And then in that case, we've got two left footed centre halves. Ogbona's getting older. Agard's mustard, but it's hard work when he's still new to the league. You know, he's injured again, and to set up that way, even with yesterday, I don't think it's a game for Paqueta either way, because you need someone to get stuck in, and Souček is that guy. Fortunately for us, come on and played well, I think. But yeah, it all adds up to when you set up with that I would call it a losing or drawing mentality, 5 at the back. You're never going to set the crowd alight, are you?
No, and I think, you know, you make an interesting point about the formation is deemed defensive. Obviously, if you play it correctly, it can be a brilliant offensive one. We've seen the likes of Chelsea use it really well as offensive one. If Juventus back in the day, I think even under Conte used it really offensively and were really good at it. Brighton, prime example, another play fit back who use it offensively, but we just don't seem to understand how to utilize it in that way. And as you said, when we used it before, we were great counter-attacking. Yeah. Counter-attack seems to be lost at the moment, so it's really difficult. But as you say, that we conceded goals really early. We arguably could have been 3-0 down within the first 20 minutes. And, you know, when you look at the first one we conceded, it was a big mistake as well from again, who just seemed to dangle a leg out. Fortunately, Zhao was really offside, but it should have been a warning shot that we are being a bit too passive. We're not really making any kind of pressure on Chelsea, but didn't seem to wake them up at all.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you look at the first goal, so we broke it down here, you know, first off, that the first initial point was, you know, Bowen was probably had the advantage initially in this chance with this challenge with Midyuk, but, you know, Midyuk got his toe in and Bowen then ended up being on the floor with an injury. And what Chelsea did really well throughout the game, I thought, was they compacted us really, really well. So obviously in this shot, you can see we have, you know, in the middle, they've got Madueke, Havertz and Felix, really condensing that middle piece and actually starting to create a 3-on-2 with Ogbonna and Aged. But again, they've got that width because you've got James on the right-hand side, you've got Kukurea on the left. They're just compacting us and yet stretching us at the same time. And it was just something that happened consistently throughout that actual first 45 minutes. And the thing that we kind of didn't help was, again, I can understand why he did it. Initially, Soufal turns inside because he's looking at Midyuk, but, you know, it then gets put out wide to Kukurea. And then by the time he plays it back to Fernandes, again, there was way too much time in that first half for Fernandes. He was on the ball so often with very little pressure. And again, you know, completely unmarked. We have 9 players behind the ball. The only reason we don't have 10 is because Bowen is currently laying on the floor injured. You know, Antonio is sitting on the edge of the D. You know, that's how deep we were playing. And it's just an insane. And then, you know, with Fernandes is given all of that time. You can't give a player of that quality time. But also, again, you know, a player who's been brilliant for us really had a shaky 20 minutes, I think. And, you know, when you look at, you know, this kind of view, you know, obviously you can see the linkage, and that's the links of our players. You've got the back 5, all within a really kind of tight area. You've got, again, Souček and Rice sitting deep, but Souček's not in a position to press Fernandes, nor is Antonio and Benrahma. And if you just look on the right-hand side, if they could have switched it out to James, he had so much space, but it makes a beautiful little dink in. And you have to say, again, really has to be questioned as to, you know, being touch tight with Felix and just not going with his runner, just kind of switched off and just allowed the run. And obviously it was a good finish from Felix. I have seen some people criticize Fabianski saying, well, he hasn't even moved.
No.
From that kind of range, I don't think many goalkeepers are
4 yards out. What's he supposed to do? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not his fault there. I think that right in that position, there's 2 clear things. It's we've given Fernandes way too much time for, you know, a player of that quality. We know he can make that pass, and also that very, very split second that Aged switches off and just loses his runner. And to be honest, it's a really good run from Felix. I thought Felix was really, really good in that first half, and he was finding so many little bits of pockets. Yeah,
it was constantly just, as you say, sitting in the pockets. He and Fernandes absolutely dictated that first half, and we just could not contain them. And it also then led to what would probably should have been 2-0. You know, Havertz was so lucky. And one of the things that I really found frustrating about it. I remember at the time in the game when it went in, I didn't notice what Bonner had done as part of that sequence, and also just the dejection at that point was just like, oh, here we go, we're about to get absolutely hammered. But this is a screenshot again. We mentioned about Felix just constantly in a pocket. He was just away from everyone. And when you look at this, you can even see Medic. He's not shaped to pass the ball into him. You've got Rice there, who's in a position to maybe cut that out and get there. If the pass is under hit, Souček maybe could slide and put a toe out with his, telescope legs. And again, he just kind of switches off. He's not even paying attention to Havertz's run. Fortunately, he was marginally offside, but Bonner's just running out into no man's land rather than covering space in behind him. Again, switches off. Fortunately, Havertz is offside, but it was just, we just didn't seem to just take any warnings at all in that first 20 minutes. And I don't know about you guys. I was at that stage thinking, well, this is going to get turned into a hammering. We could lose 3-4-0. I don't know about you guys and how you felt at that point.
Evan, how were you feeling? Because you were at the stadium, weren't you?
It was, I thought we had a point 100% at this point. I thought we were not worried about anything.
I wish I had your optimism then. At that point, I was sitting there with a banging headache just going, oh, this game is just making it worse.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. I still think as the rest of the game went on, we didn't learn from those mistakes. I think they just got worse at doing what they were trying to do. And eventually we decided to put a bit of pressure on them. But yeah, these are things that are going to creep in. I mean, I love the analysis, by the way. I feel like I'm on Match of the Day. That's brilliant. But I feel like these are things that we've been watching throughout the whole of this season, that from sitting here, from this point of view, you just think it's easy. Yeah. But I don't know if it's something that the players don't trust each other, or the confidence is just through the floor and they just don't want to make any mistakes, which leads to more mistakes and not playing sensible football. Yeah. And all those things that you just discussed with the back line, it's unreal.
Yeah. How do you feel about that, Frank? Do you agree that it's maybe players not trusting themselves, not trusting the system? Maybe it's again that idea of you hanging the game until the 80th minute and then you open up. How do you kind of view that? Because obviously that first 20 minutes turgid is one way I would put it, being polite.
Yeah.
How about you? How do you feel?
I just think the mentality we have right now, especially in games like Newcastle and Chelsea, it's almost like, well, if we've got the point from the start of the match, we hold on to that if we can. And then anything else is a bonus. Just don't lose the match. And then as soon as we go 1-0 down, which is always inevitable from how we start, we then start to play how we know we can play. And we start, showing our attacking phases and, using the wing backs higher up like we should be doing in this formation, and not just sitting back on the edge of our own box. And yeah, I think it's a mentality thing. I think confidence probably as well. And just individual errors, like we've seen them in them screenshots there. How many individual errors led to those goals? Ogbonna running out for the Havertz one. I don't know why he ran out there. I didn't even realize that in real time. And yeah, just again switching off for the first Felix goal. So I think it's a mixture of both, and just the players just don't have confidence in how we set up from the start. And I think games like this, you can understand you're going to have to be a bit more compact. So when it comes to playing Forest in a couple of weeks, I think that's going to be the real test to see whether we're actually making a bit more progress under Moyes and whether these points are, justified for how we're playing.
Yeah, exactly. And, after that initial shock and awe 20 odd minutes, we actually then started playing some decent football. We had a good 4-minute spell where Antonio came close with an opportunity. It was really good work between Souček and I think it was Soufal and Bowen to play through. And then obviously it was a really good opportunity. Then we had a corner not long after where it just came off of Kera's back. Again, it was a really good opportunity, just kind of got turned around. And then came the goal. And the goal in itself was so well worked from us. Completely could have been defended a lot better from Chelsea as well. But, let's go into it. First off, it was a great press from Soufal. He chased Cucurella. We just seemed to, that little period, all of a sudden, have a bit of impetus and wanting to chase players down and try and actually close the space. And, we won the ball. We recycled it around, got it out to Kera, who put it back into Kufal, who just kept his space. Obviously, Kukurea went inside a bit to kind of cover for potentially if it goes into Souček, and obviously got Bowen as well. But throughout this whole thing, again, Emerson, look where he is in this whole entire phase. He's really wide, totally on the shoulder of Madueke, not looking like he's involved in this at all. And, again, to be crossing from one fullback to the other fullback to get a goal shows that how, when this system is used properly, how it can be so dangerous. Chelsea did it brilliantly last year under Tuchel, hence why Chilwell and James were, at one point, they were up there as their top goal scorers in the league because, again, if you are running from those positions, you have so much space, potentially, if you work it right, which we did. But from a Chelsea perspective, they will be so annoyed with this goal because, when you look at that defensive four, it's a pretty good line, but you got James just sitting on the edge of the area, completely oblivious to the space over his right-hand shoulder. He's just completely focused on Benrahma, has no idea what's going on. Madueke, again, is just looking ahead, no idea what's happening on his shoulder. So there's a huge mountain of space. If we can get the ball delivered correctly, then we had an opportunity. Obviously, I think Chelsea were probably overly confident because Thiago Silva and Bediashile, very good in the air, solid, but the cross in from Soufal was just spot on. Bowen moves into position, lovely little flick to back post again. James has completely no idea what's going on. Madueke, again, no idea. Emerson has already started his movement and running into the box, completely unmarked. So it was one of those, if Bowen went for it himself, probably the opportunity's gone. Because he made that intelligent little flick, all of a sudden, because we have all of this space at the back post and Emerson's run was timed to perfection, just gets in at the back and then obviously scores a goal, and pandemonium ensued for a few minutes because all of a sudden we were a game that we were not in. We worked ourselves in for about a good 4-minute period and we actually scored when we were on top, which is don't think something we've seen enough of. But yeah, I don't know what you got your guys taking it. I thought it was a well-worked goal, but I'd also say if I was a Chelsea fan, I would be livid with the defending and the awareness levels of both James and Madueke as well.
Evan, what do you think?
Okay. Do you know what? I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, right? I think that you said it was a great cross from Soufal. I think it's just the luckiest thing in the world. I'll be honest, because I watched him yesterday, and as we do every week, we watch him run up and down. I think he's a great defender, but when it comes to attacking, he just can't cross the ball, right? So luckily enough, this one happens to go into the path of Bowen. Great flick on by Bowen, and like you say, Emerson back post, put it away really well. I like the way he does that. He's not afraid to have a shot. But as much as I think, yes, okay, the idea of the back five worked, the wing back to wing back, I think we got incredibly lucky that they switched off. Because, like you say, no one's watching him running in. And if they had, and you're right, they did kind of underestimate us a little bit, or they thought they were on top. They thought it was going to be an easy day out. That was it was the start of a period where we started to look like ourselves and how that system can work, which is great. But once again, Soufal, he just needs to work on his crossing because there's so many times, especially yesterday, that he's hitting the first man or he's trying to float one in to no one. And it's becoming really frustrating because, like I keep saying, great defender and works well for the team. But the reason that we work so well in a back four is because when he's not having to have that attacking mindset, he can give it to Bowen in front of him. And then he could sort it all out himself.
Mm-hmm.
But the flick on, amazing flick, could have gone to anyone. Luckily, it fell to us. I'm not trying to take anything away from the boys. I'm happy we scored and I'm happy it worked well. But if we have to rely on that for the rest of the season, I'm very worried.
Yeah, exactly. Frankie, how about you? What was your feelings in that whole kind of sequence? Obviously, that kind of period of play, and obviously then ultimately the goal.
First of all, it's frustrating just to see that, once again, go 1-0 down, then we start doing that kind of stuff. I think we kind of clocked on to Cucurella and how poor he was defensively. And, with the wing-back system, we've said, how negative it is. I actually think, from that goal, it worked in our advantage because Mudryk wasn't really dropping back to help out Cucurella. Cucurella was a lot of the time coming inside And we realised that. So Souček started to make those runs on where Kufal was. Bowen was there. So we started to create like a 3 versus 2 overload. And yeah, just before that with the Antonio chance, we did that. And then Kufal got the ball to Bowen, crossed it into Antonio, and we came close. So I was happy that, you know, in game, we kind of clocked on and thought, okay, this is how we can hurt Chelsea. And that's how the goal came down that side. So yeah, I know what Evan's saying with Kufal's crossing, because he's been awful this season. And, you know, last season he was terrible. But, you know, everyone's been terrible. Even Cresswell has been terrible with crosses. So, yeah, it was nice that it paid off. Yeah, really nice flick from Bowen. And yeah, I was just glad to be level at that point, because we could have been 3-0 down.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the rest of that second half went much the same as it had been. Chelsea were pretty much on top. They were doing well in compacting us and going wide. You know, Meadowik had a great shot that Fabianski saved. It was a brilliant save, actually. Really good hand to it to kind of push it really wide. But, you know, it kind of petered out, really, I think, that second half in the end. And then we got into the second half. We stepped up a bit more. We started pressing. But it wasn't much in the way of creating, I didn't think. Obviously, we had a goal disallowed through Rice being marginally offside. It was a really well-worked free kick as well, which was the frustrating part. It was a great free kick, great delivery, fantastic header. Have to credit the goalkeeper because he made a brilliant save. And then Souček being exactly where you want him to be and tapped it in. But, you know, ultimately, it was just a bit of a forced dawn, wasn't it? Because not much really happened. We kind of harried, we chased, we tried to make problems, but nothing seemed to be doing. I don't know how you guys felt that first half. We will talk about the other incident that happened in that half, but we'll hold that one for now. But how did you feel up to, you know, about, you know, that point really in the game up till when we got that kind of disallowed goal? How do you feel that kind of went? Because it felt for me it was a bit of an open game at that stage. It could have gone either way, but no team really seemed to take the, I guess, the full advantage.
Yeah, I think, you know, Chelsea just kind of they kind of sat a little bit off. They stopped pressing as much. You know, they only had like one shot up until like the 80th minute in that second half. So it kind of just went into a bit of a lull. We were happy with the point. You could tell that we were just sitting compact still. Once we got the equaliser, and then, you know, it sort of followed the pattern of the first half where we were sitting in and we weren't really, you know, attacking much at all again, which was annoying. But yeah, I think Moyes was just happy with the point at that point, and then we started to make the subs. You know, where Downs came on, we went to like a 5-3-2 instead of a 5-2-3. Antonio came off; he was just knackered. So we had that, you know, attacking threat gone. And, you know, as much as Ings was working hard, he's not the same type of player as Antonio. He can't really, you know, work as an isolated striker. So it kind of meant we were just going to have to dig in, and maybe a set piece goal like that Rice one could have won us it. And then it was just not, you know, it's just about not losing it. And, you know, we got very lucky at the end that they didn't get that penalty.
Yeah. What about you, Evan? How did you feel about that second half?
I think there's not much else you can say, boys. Like you two are spot on. No one wanted to win it. I think there wasn't enough, you know, oomph in either team. And they were just like I said, felt like everyone was hungover. And it's early Saturday morning. No one really cared anymore. You know, I felt like we never had a chance of scoring, but I felt we were never worried about Chelsea scoring either. And it was like, once again, very subdued, very borderline boring. You know, There's not many times I go to West Ham and think, oh, bloody hell, what time am I going home? But it was getting to a certain point there. It's like that yesterday. The crowd felt it. The players obviously felt it. And I think the effort was only about 75%.
Yeah. So let's talk about the big thing about that, the end of the half. Obviously, we'd just had a goal disallowed. And then to be or not to be, the handball, you know, you could arguably say we were saved by VAR. VAR didn't review it. They kind of said that it wasn't a clear and obvious mistake from the ref. I'm going to go to bat on Souček here to support it, because technically the rule is, you know, if you are making a slide, you're going to ground for a block. If your supporting arm is the thing that is hit, it's not classed as a handball because it's accidental. It's your supporting arm, so on and so forth. I know the argument will be that he made himself bigger by putting his arm down. But the other argument is, where's his arm going to go if you need to support yourself and go to ground? One view as well looked like it hit his knee. The other view looked like it hit his hand. So,
am I stupid? I don't think it touches his hand. I haven't seen it that many times. I've seen it a couple of times. But honestly, I think that hits his knee. I'm not even taking the mick. I thought it hit his knee. That's why I couldn't understand because I'm sat right behind it yesterday. And I'm like, what are they talking about? And then I seen one replay, Geezer walks in front of the camera, so you can't see it clearly. But I'm adamant it hits his knee.
Yeah, I think there's two angles as well. So there's one angle where it looks like it hits his hand, flush. There's another angle where it looks like it hits his knee. Only when you slow the rate down. I watched it today at a rate of like 0.2 of normal time.
Right.
And even then you look at it and go, it probably hits his hand. Because when his knee comes down, the ball's arguably just gone past his hand. But having said that, let's face it, after the last game against Chelsea, after the last game where they were so gleeful that VAR screwed us, there's no two ways about it. They apologised and said they got it wrong. So we were screwed. Who cares? Screw you.
Yeah.
That's the comeuppance. They reaped what they sowed from that game, and we got maybe a little bit of luck. Obviously, after the game, there was some tongue-in-cheek comments from both Souček and also Moyes as well.
Well, their admin on Twitter was going after it, wasn't he, on the Chelsea admin? So you know what? Let them cry, because we can sit here and analyse it. Just let them cry. Like, I don't care. We got the decision. Like, just enjoy it.
Exactly.
What did Souček say? I missed it. What did he say?
So Souček was saying about his dad used to be a goalkeeper, so he's quite used to getting there. And then Moyes was saying, sometimes you need your goalkeeper to come out and make big saves, and Souček did that today. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
So we were really tongue in cheek, and I think after the way Chelsea were in the last game, I think we probably deserved to be a bit tongue in cheek and actually mocking them, because they quite frankly were loving the VAR last time.
Goes both ways, doesn't it?
Exactly. And I think some Chelsea fans saying, the league's against us. It's like, no, you were just terrible and you were claiming everything. I thought Chelsea at times were just laughable, the way they just flopped on the floor under everything, and the ref gave them quite a bit, I felt, during the game. And that,
especially in the first half, I know Felix was really good, but there was a couple of free kicks he got given, just dropped to the floor, like the tiniest bit of contact. It was ridiculous.
No, exactly, it was. I guess the kind of last thing I want to get to before we talk about the man of the match is something that kind of harks back to the incompetence of January. But players are just dropping like flies at the moment. And, we sold a centre-back, didn't bring someone in. We've now got 2 centre-backs out injured. Zuma probably will be back soon, I would think.
And then he'll be back out again.
But we don't know about Aged. Can't trust the Zuma either. So we've got 4 centre-backs, only 2 of which that are fully fit, and we play a back 3.
And one of them's rubbish.
Fair to Kieran, though, he did have a good game yesterday. It was probably his best game for us yesterday.
Possibly, but I like him. I just don't trust
him. No, I think that's completely fair. He's he's a really likable bloke. He was really, I think yesterday suited him. You can clearly tell he was up for it. And with Soufal, I think he's got a brother in arms in terms of 2 players who just like to go around and kicking people when they can. So I think they kind of enjoyed that. But guys, we've lost. Technically, we've got 2 defenders down. We've also got Paquetá who's injured, Scamacca's injured. Danny Ings Danny Ings and Antonio, you would say, are accidents waiting to happen. It's a slight worry, I would think.
I would say we're a Rice injury away from being bang in trouble, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem, isn't it, lads? We're looking at the moment, players are overplaying. We've got Europe coming up as well. We're still in Cup, obviously the FA Cup, but we're still in one Cup still, as well as the Europe Premier League. It comes to a point where we have to go, you know what, we're going to have to bow out of a cup, probably the FA Cup, really, so we can concentrate on staying up and going as far as we can, because the games are paying their toll unless we're going to play youth, and that doesn't look likely either. So we had eight players on the bench yesterday as well, guys, with 2 of them subs, goalkeepers. Yep. So again, it's only 8 subs out of possible 9. Got 2 injuries again today. It's a bit bleak, to be honest, going into the Tottenham game when you look at it in that respect. But how are you guys feeling about the kind of the injury state at the moment at the club?
It's just happened for so long now, hasn't it? I don't know why we didn't replace Dawson. We said it at the time, especially because we wanted to play the back 3. Hopefully Paquetá and Aged's injuries aren't too bad, but it looked like Aged's one was like a muscular one, and Paqueta's shoulder, we know that kept him out already this season for a few weeks. So I don't know, man. I'm sick of talking about injuries. It's just so annoying. Just so annoying.
Yeah. How about you, Evan?
Yeah, exactly the same. It's nothing new to us, you know. It happens all the time. We can sit here. If you look back 5 of the last 6 transfer windows, and we just say, "Oh, why didn't we replace this?" or "Why are we letting someone go without bringing someone in?" It gets to a point where it's much like the game yesterday, boring. Do you know? It's our own fault, you know, and we have to deal with that as fans, that they've not replaced who we needed replacing, or I know he's always got that mentality of, I don't want to get someone in just for the sake of it. But you have to realise we were in a dogfight. And even when we had all of our players, we never had a fully fit squad, but when we had 90% fully fit, we were still in this situation that we're in now. You know,
Yeah.
we've got to go all out for the Conference League, and we've got to stay in the Premier League. So unfortunately, do whatever you want to do against United, but just don't, like you say, get Rice injured, or, to be honest, any of the players that we had on the pitch yesterday, any more injuries from them, we are banging trouble.
Yeah, and I guess this comes back to the point we've said a number of times, Frankie, of that if you have youth players, you sometimes have to play them because you never know when you're going to need them. And at the moment, we're in a position where we might need 1 or 2 of those young lads to come in, but we have no knowledge of whether they can play at this level, which is something we've always said. Training is one thing, but you need experience. You need to know you can trust them. Moyes doesn't know he can trust them. We end up like we did yesterday with 8 players on the bench, and 2 of those being 2 youth lads who are goalkeepers. So they're not going to play. They're easy to put on the bench. He chose not to bring up 1 youth player to fill up the last 8 or the 9th position. So it is a concern that we've got players dropping like flies. We don't seem to have any viable options coming through the youth team who can at least supplement the squad for a period. So it's slightly concerning around that going into, obviously, the next 2 games. Tottenham, obviously, is Derby, is important, but Forest is a massive game and we need to have players fit. If we don't have players fit for the Forest game, you know, that's the game we have to win. That's the only point in my mind where I can say, you know what, we've started to turn a corner. If we win that game, then I can say, yeah, you know what, these results actually clearly have shown a progression and turning the corner. I don't think we've played well enough overall. And 2 of those games were piss poor quality in Derby and Everton. So I can't count those as turning a corner. But that's a conversation for another day. But, you know, we look to end it now. So, guys, it's probably a bit of a difficult question. Who was your man of the match for the game yesterday?
Evan, you go first, mate.
It's a tough one, you know. To be honest with you, I'd say after Souček come on, he was great. From where I was, I mean, I know at the stadium they give it to Agar. I don't understand that one. Fair play. But yeah, I think Souček, even Soufal, they did nothing wrong. But I would say if I was giving it to anyone, it's Souček, because he has lost his confidence. It looks like Moyes doesn't trust him anymore to start. And I think he come on and done exactly what we needed from the beginning of the game yesterday.
Yeah, Frankie?
Yeah, I'm going to probably give it to Emerson. I thought he was, you know, really, really good defensively. I think we've said how good he can be, you know, going forwards and how much more of a threat we are going forwards when he plays on that left wing back. But I thought defensively, he pretty much stunted anyone that was coming down the right-hand side. You know, a lot of their success came from the left. So, yeah, I think Emerson, just for, you know, he got the goal as well. And yeah, defensively, he was one of our better players yesterday.
Yeah, I think, you know, guys both made fair shouts. Like, I enjoyed what Soufal did in the game. I do think he put in some dangerous crossing, although there wasn't really anyone there, but the crosses were into dangerous positions. That's the other thing. He's putting it into positions. I don't think we're necessarily a team that plays to a point of aim for players. It's you put it into a position and we attack that space. I think that's kind of more how we target crossing. I thought Kehrer had a much improved game, probably his best game for us, but I probably will go for Emerson as well. I think he was brilliant on that side. You know, after years of watching Cresswell play as a left back, it's so nice to see a player who can run more than 2 miles an hour, can pass the ball, can deliver it, and actually get in the box and score goals. So, yeah, I think he definitely deserved that yesterday. Probably was our best player, bar the 4 I think we've all spoken about just now. But yeah, let's go for our man Emerson. You know, deserved man of the match from him, and he also didn't celebrate against Chelsea, which I suppose is a touch of class from him. As a fan, I would have liked to have seen him to celebrate, but you know he didn't. But any last words, guys, on the game?
No, No, I think we summarised it pretty well. At the end of the day, we got a really good point in a game where we probably didn't think we would. So we've got 2 points now. We're unbeaten in our last 4 games, which is a nice turnaround because we lost like 6 or 7 on the bounce before that. So yeah, we're slowly getting points on the board. And yeah, as we mentioned, Spurs away next week is going to be tough, but that Forest game in a couple of weeks, that's the big test for us. So yeah, happy with the point, and we move forward, Zay.
Yeah, Evan, any last words?
Yeah, let's do.
Not in general.
Yeah, I hope not. I reckon. Listen, even if we manage to get a point against Spurs as well, Moisey's bought himself some time, and I think he does deserve it in the grand scheme of things. Do Spurs, do Forest, we'll be all right.
You heard it here first. We do Spurs and we do, but not in Forest. We are done. We are fine. But no, I do agree. I think if we get the result, again, a decent result against Spurs, and we do well against Forest, then I think that will start to breed more confidence in the team, and we can then hopefully go on a run. Ideally, it's just about staying up this year. If we finish 17th, I guess that is fine as long as we get through into Europa League Conference and we actually win that competition. We have to win that competition and remain in the Premier League. I think that is the only thing that will keep Moyes in the job, is winning that conference. Otherwise, I don't think you can say that he deserves another year after this year. And if we want to be a big team, we want to kind of progress, maybe I think the time is probably to call it quits if we don't win that. But, 1 point, I guess, as Big Sam would always say, respect the point. So we'll take that point and, we'll go on now to Spurs, and hopefully we'll turn up and we'll turn them over. But thanks for joining us, Evan. Really appreciate it, mate. Great having you on. And everyone, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you all again very soon.